Hello everyone, here we are on a special episode of Tombstone Tea, College Edition. Boop! Stole my daughter from school so that we can go to the Chicago History Museum. The Chicago History Museum is free today, so I'm super excited about that. But what you do is you see us walking in Lincoln Park, and believe it or not, Lincoln Park before it became a zoo, and the Chicago History Museum, and also the Peggy Notabart Nature Museum, it was actually the city cemetery. And there's still one mausoleum left. Good morning. Let's get into it, you guys. Let's turn this around so you can see it. Yes, that is the infamous Couch Mausoleum that is still here. So freaking awesome. And believe it or not, every few years they do construction in Lincoln Park and they actually find new bodies. So just remember that when you're at Lincoln Park Zoo, you are totally out there with some bodies. I'm just letting you know. And here's the sign showing about how this was the city cemetery. This area, which now is known as Lincoln Park, rests just north of Chicago's Magnificent Mile and just south of Boystown. It consists of the city zoo, the Chicago History Museum, and the Peggy Notabart Nature Museum, which you'll see in pictures later on. Today we visited the zoo and also the Chicago History Museum, which you will see clips of throughout this video. Anywho, Ira Couch was an early settler of Chicago who owned the Tremont House, which was the main inn in town, and unfortunately it was destroyed by the Chicago fire. This mausoleum belongs to him and approximately about 6 to 7 family members. This mausoleum is the last visible remnant of the time when this used to be the main city cemetery. And the city cemetery consisted of a potter's field, a city common cemetery, and also Jewish and Catholic cemeteries. Now, due to the early settlements being on marshland, the decomposing corpses polluted the main water supplies and sewage systems. In the mid to late 1860s, the city ceased burials in Lincoln Park City Cemetery and started reinterring the bodies in the newly established Rosehill and Oakwood cemeteries. We are now the Catholic Church established 7 main cemeteries on the southwest side, which we visited a couple of them, and also the African American communities came together and established their own cemeteries and that was a necessity due to racial segregation and discrimination.
Just remember that.
So that is why most of the cemeteries out south, like Lincoln, Oakwoods, Restville, they were the only few cemeteries established mainly for African Americans to be treated with dignity, even in death. So you're seeing pictures from our trip to Lincoln Park Zoo. Just remember that all of this used to be cemetery land. And then you're also going to see pictures. Here's the Peggy Notabart Nature Museum. And then we also went to the Chicago History Museum, which was an absolute fun time. But to continue on, Chicago was and is still a very segregated city where certain demographics weren't allowed to cross into certain areas, which is how we got the 1919 race riots. And remember, we visited the victim, Eugene Williams, which his death started and kicked off the 1919 race riots because his raft accidentally drifted into the white area of the beachfront. So as of late as 1998, they were still finding bodies in Lincoln Park due to recent construction. The gravestones weren't actually stone, but they were wood, and they were destroyed by the Chicago fire, which made like complete relocation very difficult. But also make sure you check out the Chicago History Museum. It is honestly one of my favorite museums here in Chicago. The others seem to be overcrowded with small, loose children, and people don't know how to, tame their children. So this one is really, really nice, informative, and interactive. I was so excited because they had an exhibit on the blues. They had a diorama room detailing the Chicago fire and the World's Exposition in Paris, and it's honestly amazing. I saw exhibits about Catherine O'Leary and her fire-starting cow, who we visited in one of our previous graves. They had some information about the stockyards and Gustavus Swift. And his innovations in the stockyards, who we also visited. And they even had a little blurb about how Robert S. Abbott, who was the Chicago Defender's owner and founder, how he used his newspaper to advocate for blacks and to talk about the race riots and lynching. And if you've seen our full video on Bessie Coleman, we actually went to go visit his grave. And we also learned about how he used the Chicago Defender to honestly raise funds for so many African American pilots in the early 20s and 30s. That's how they were able to get their funding for planes, to open up their own airport over in Robbins. We learned about that at the Robbins, Illinois History Museum. He was very instrumental in promoting and honestly encouraging blacks. They also have a exhibit on the Pullman Porters, local sports teams, and they currently have exhibits on the history of protesting and democracy in Chicago. So make sure that you check it out, as well as the Couch Tomb, Lincoln Park Zoo, and the Peggy Notabart Nature Museum for some rich Chicago history. So I hope that you all enjoyed this episode of Tombstone Tea. Of course, we had to throw in a grave in there. But definitely get out to the Chicago History Museum. I went on a free day. It is, I think, $19 for Chicago residents if you don't go on a free day. And then also the college students get in for free or a discounted rate depending on what college they go to. So if you're a college student, go out and check out some Chicago history. It's a very, very nice time. You'll spend a couple hours in there. They have Abraham Lincoln Theater. They have so many exhibits about Abraham Lincoln. I mean, like, there were just so many freaking exhibits, honestly. So go check it out, please.